kind of justical probabilities. You're expert about you. Context matters. The first thing when we have our meetings tomorrow, the next day, first thing I'll ask you is to tell me a little bit about your job, where you work, and who were the people who filled out your ratings. There is no such thing as abstract information here. It all is context dependent. So, you'll see there are a couple of items in there such as managing outside of your department. Now, that in your context may be completely meaningless because managing outside of your department might mean being the head of the math department or something, which you be. So it's not it could be not relevant there. And finally, there are two main mistakes that people make in interpreting, in looking at data: agree too quickly or disagree too quickly. So the disagree too quickly is kind of obvious in terms of getting defense. Oh, that's not me. That person doesn't know me. But it's also possible to agree too quickly and just say, oh, yeah, that's right. It's me, and move on. So the idea is to really think about and reflect on what the data mean in their context, and that has to do with your growth plans through dslti. A quote from Mark Twain. I've been commented many times, and they always embarrass me. I always feel they have not said enough. So that's Mark Twain is good for a quote. If you remember this, I made this prediction when I met with the group in the summer, way back when, and the prediction was, and I still will stick with my prediction, that you're going to see something on your form that you find validating and gratifying, and you're all going to see something on your form that you will find to be of concern. That's the nature of the beast. Accept that we're doing this in the spirit of growth, and also accept that you will also strengths that you'll leverage for change, and you'll see areas of growth. And sometimes one group will see something as a strength, and the other group will see the same thing as an area for growth. So it's all confusing, but it's all there. Franklin's criticism is hard to take, especially from a friend, a family member, or a total stranger, which was a decent quote as well. A little bit more technical. So to get every piece of this, but just so we get the lingo down. If you look on the slide here, you'll see a kind of an org chart. At the top is A for the assessment. That's the overall assessment. Then now there are three S's. S, red S, blue S, and yellow S. Those are scales, or subunits, you could think of them, of the assessment. Below the scales, or subunits, are I's. For items, those are the questions. Each assessment is made up of several subsections or scales, and each scale is made up of items or questions. So in the marks, each of the little bubbles that you filled out is an item. That's level of kind of analysis there. So together, and then the scales all together, assessment. I'll be more concrete about that in a sec. For example, an org chart with an assessment, let's make believe it's an assessment of Jewish identity. So that's assessment up top. I put in two scales, behavioral scale and an attitudinal scale. Put in another level of subscales. So you see this could keep dividing more and more. Behavioral, I have ritual and I have social. And then for ritual, I put in a sample item. How often do you light candles? For social, in a sample item. Nuns that are Jewish or something like that. And you can see that this could, you can keep splitting this off into subsections until finally you get down to the items. All right. tie this back to benchmarks. You don't need all of this information as in like to remember what's where. It'll all be on the feedback form. But I'll show you, this is a graphic showing you what the marks, how the benchmarks comes together. So the overall assessment is the benchmarks 360. You see that flying there on top. There are two major sections, the competency section and the derailer section. And you hopefully got the derailer section where things switched from high is better to high is more of a concern. So remember, about 2/3 of the way through, stopped being a good thing and started being more of a concern. So that is the second section of derailers. Competencies section has 3 subsections: leading the organization, leading others, and leading yourself. And those subsections has yet 4 divisions: strategic perspective, being a quick study, et cetera, et cetera. And each has its items. So strategic perspective, for example, is a subsection of leading the organization. And strategic perception, which is a subset of leading the organization, is made up of a bunch of different items that get averaged out, items or questions. And in this way, you don't get, what's nice about this is that each of those lowest level subsections, strategic perspective, decisiveness, each of those is a manageable number of items so that you could look at each one in isolation, not just say, wow, there's 50 things here about leading the organization. Where do I start? Forward. Again, this is just another way of showing the first section, the competencies. I need to know what's where. You'll see it all when you see the form. 2 has only one layer of subscales. These are derailers. These are framed as problems and difficulties. So that's the second part of the benchmarks where the coding switched from, kind of reverse directions for what a 5 means. We're about to look at a sample form, but before we do, I want to get a couple. I'll show this slide again afterwards and talk about it during when I show you the sample form. I want to just mention a few things now, and again, read it. Bad presentation form. With these things. The results are relative. So is 3.8 a low score? We don't know a 3.8. These are abstract kind of things. It's out of 5. 3.8 is lower than a 4.2, but it's, it's not a good or bad. You're not getting a smiley face or a frowny face. You're getting scores that are only understood in relation with the other scores. Is you will have many red marks on your paper by definition and many green marks. You'll see that the benchmarks is scored, your top scores get green flagged and your lowest scores get red flagged. What it means is you will always have lowest scores. You will always have red marks unless everyone gave you a 5 on everything, which can happen. So you will see the red marks. Don't get thrown by the red marks. Doesn't necessarily mean objectively low score. It is among your lowest scores. Next is key. Low necessarily mean need to change. Whoa, I'm way off on the quotation marks there. But it could be that you scored lower on an area of decisiveness or something, and the easier thing to say is, well, I should become more decisive. You might say, well, look, I'm really working on collaborative leadership, and I'm trying to slow things down a little bit. So I want people to see me as indecisive, but I don't necessarily want to become so quick to make decisions. So it's all in context there. Our test we'll get to when I show you the results. Are there connections on an item level? Just because a question appears in one scale doesn't mean that it's not relevant to another scale. Sometimes you'll see two items separated by 4 or 5 pages that look similar. You might start seeing patterns in those individual items. And you'll see some of this as we go through. And not all the items on the 360 are relevant. I'm sure you saw that as you went through. So, for example, I gave you an example already of managing in a different department. Some of you might be in the highest position there is in your school, and there was a question about a promotion, which wouldn't, again, wouldn't make sense for you. Some of you might be in your first year in a position, so a promotion wouldn't make sense. So there are questions that, if you see scores that are out of whack, you have to ask yourself, does that question really seem relevant? All right, I'm going to switch over to the actual benchmark sample. This is you have this either you could see it online or you could have it in front of you. It is a sample for someone, oddly enough, named Pat Sample. Amazing that they're able to find someone named Sample and that person as the sample. So, they're good. This is exactly what your form will look like, except it will say your name and it will not say Pat Sample. On the front, very easy, you'll see the list of who filled it out. You then get a couple of images, you get the table of contents, yada yada, introduction. Then you get to the first page, section 1. So if you're keeping score at home, it's actually page 4. And 4 is where we start getting some data. So what we have, sorry, I'm just doing a little muting because I'm getting background noise. It could be from me. But. Okay, so to Chin, you have to chat me because you're on mute now. But it might be best to wait, down the questions so we go through it here. All right, so on the first column here, you list of in this competency section. There are 16 of them. You see them on the perspective, being a quick study, decisiveness, et cetera, et cetera. And you could see over here the section that they're in. The truth is, it doesn't matter what section they're in, because we're really talking about these subscales. Strategic perspective is what we're talking about. The fact that that's under leading the organization isn't quite as relevant. Let's stay with strategic perspective all the way on top. And go out to the right, and you'll see the average of the ratings for all of the items, strategic perspective, that you give yourself. See? So on average, you give yourself 3.63. Whereas all the other observers averaged together gave you a 4. That's an average. The other thing you'll see in this on this page are this grade column in the middle is what is important for success. So if you remember, at some point, or even if you don't remember, at some point it asked you and everyone else too, I forget how many it asked you to pick, 6 or 8, which are the most important in your organization. And you pick, actually we could figure out how many it was. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You had to pick 8 of the top most important. So if you strategic perspective, it's that you picked it as most important for success, boss picked it, and altogether 8 people. So here's some pretty good consistency around everyone thinking that it's important for success. So the thing to watch out for here is if your boss thinks something is important for success and you don't. For example, in change management, 6 of a pretty good amount, including the boss, think that it's among the most important, but sample does not. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. You don't expect everything to be exactly if the boss thinks it's important. I think it's important. Sometimes you'll see everyone thought that is important, but not me. I wonder why, wonder what that's about. It raises some questions. I'm going to go pages, and then I'm going to stop for questions. The next group comparisons, this is a chart that doesn't go specifically numerically, but it goes numerically against the overall norms that Center for Creative Leadership has. So it's just a helpful way of showing graphically going on here. So we've got red is the average of all the observers. The black is you. So on strategic perspective, you are a bit lower. You're lower than all the observers. All the observers are sort of in the mid-range, and you rated yourself low. Asking yourself, what significant difference? It is a significant difference. And here is where we get to the very scientific quarter test. In the second quarter, and for those Canadians, you probably have something the shape of a quarter. It can fit observers. There are all the observers. This is the average. The red is the average of all your observers, and because you. So if it's a standard American quarter, which I don't know how big it is, but let's say it's that big. If that between, whoops, I didn't do that other one. Could fit it between the two lines, that means it's a significant difference. So get out the quarter, and you could actually put it on the paper, and you'll see, the one I drew it is pretty obviously significant. You could fit maybe a couple of quarters in there. For them, like, over here, it's different, but not really that different. Take a deep breath, because the next page, it gets a little even more complicated here. So the question is, are these all your observers who are, it's only the people who have completed it. So if the people who don't complete it are not averaged in at all. All right, page. But basically, it's the same thing. If now each of the groups is broken out. You're over there. You've got a boss. You've got your peers over here. You've got reports over here. And you've got your superiors over here. If you had others, they would be there too. Was it answer all questions by observers? People could have skipped. So you'll see soon how to tell if someone skipped. Now you could start seeing the quarter test still holds. So in the sense that the superior, interestingly enough, has an extremely different view of your work than your boss does. And without context, that what I just said is a completely meaningless statement. Who cares? But if the boss is the head of school and the superior is I don't know, the executive vice president, whatever it is, you might wonder why are they reporting two very different things. Okay, that is about 75% of the whole thing, because the test is the same thing over and over again. So remember, strategic perspective. If you finger back in that messy one, the messy on page 6. Keep finger on page 6. It's good to study, textual analysis. Keep your finger here, and then go over to page 9. Look across strategic perspective. Your boss was lower, the others were the superior was higher. Now flip back to page 9. This is specifically for that subscale of strategic perspective. It repeats that information. So this is the same information that's on page average, which you could see here, gives you the importances, whether they said it was important or not, which you had, and then this is exciting. It gives you item by item what people said. Yourself a 4, a 4, etc. The highest are flagged. It's coming out blue looking, but it's supposed to be green. See that, everything that's a 5 or a 4.6, those are all among the highest, so they're all going to be flagged green. And here, like you might be saying, oh, wow, look at all that red. This is 4. Sorry, I'll do that. This is a 4. It's marked red. I get it. And it's just because a 4, remember the superior was really a high rater, so 4 was among his or her lowest scores. It doesn't mean it's a low score. It means it's relative to what else that person wrote. A blank, which that did out, only if there are more people in a category, then each line is reported, each line item. If you left it out, bumping it down below 3 people for that category, it'll show blank. Do item by item for only 2 people because of confidentiality. And I do one more thing, and I just have to find. So every page for a while here's the next one. The first one was strategic perspective, now being a quick study. And the items there. You could see Pat was pretty hard on his or herself over there. Sorry, I'm just cool, but finding where. All right, here. I'm on page 18, and if you look, item 38, acts decisively, blah, 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 appears. You'll 3.33 with asterisk on it. Now, this indicates a broad spread. If you forget all this, by the way, it's all down here. That there's at least a 3-point spread. So let's take an easier case. Let's say there was a 3 with an asterisk. There are different ways to get an average of a 3. Everyone gave you a 3, or it could be that a bunch of people gave you a 5 and a bunch of people gave you a 1, and that is significant. It means something different if everyone sees you as sort of in the middle, as if some people see like way at at the top, and some people say way at the bottom. So the asterisks mean you split the jury by 3 points or more. You see a lot of asterisks, you start saying, how come some are interpreting things differently than others, even within the same category? All right, let me add to, you're just seeing this is scale after scale. Remember, there are 16 of them. And then to that second section, which is on page 25, is where it flips, where lower scores are preferred. And here, there are 5 derailment or problem scales. And if not over a 2.5, it gets flagged. Otherwise, it doesn't get flagged. There are no greens here. It's just 2 points up, you get flagged. And here's the one, problems with interpersonal relationships on top. Here's why self. Here's the average of everyone else. Here is group, boss, superior, peers, direct reports. And if you flip to the next page, you will not be surprised to see that the page contains the items related to that, to each of those scales that came before. So the first one was problems with interpersonal relationships. It was made out of items, the average of these items here. For each of those scales, difficulty leading a team. So here the peers had some concerns. And now I'm in 5 more pages or so. You'll see the written open-ended comments starting on 1. You'll see those continue until section 4, supplement data, which for Pat is on page 33, and that is an interesting thing here. These are the greatest discrepancies between you and everyone else, whether you're higher or lower. So you see item 26 here, all observers were way higher than Pat. And in fact, all discrepancies are that Pat's lower than the observers, but that's not always the case. Sometimes, discrepancy will be you're higher and they're lower, and some will be you're lower, they're higher, etc. And then we're winding down here. The next page, page 34, just gives you the highest rated items. Amazingly enough, gives you the lowest rated items. And next is the ones that came out in that last section, the problem section, the ones that came out highest or the most concern. So what I'm going to do now is ask you to please either, I guess, your hand or, Ray wants to jump in. So, Ray, you are call 2. You're on.
So I need to leave the call, and I don't know how much, I can see you, but how much your eyes may have glazed over for some of this. But I think I want to underscore just a few of the things that Jeff said, which is the context means a lot. And so, like you gave Jeff the example of how come your superior rated you one way and your boss another. It could well be that your superior knows you really intimately well, and you've done a lot of work on specific things with her or him, but the head of school may have little evidence for this. So a lot really involves unpacking. And again, so I want to sort of underscore that one of the things Jeff is really, really skilled at, because he's done this before, and many years, and I've experienced it with Jeff, and that was even a long time ago, so now you have tons more experience at doing this, is that Jeff is really good at helping you understand the context and figure out what are the things, the takeaways that will be about you? And what are the things that you shouldn't necessarily be thinking about? Because some of the things that may look negative, you know, again, what does a 3 mean? It can mean different things in different contexts. And I think that's a really important piece, especially given our desire to jump to all the things that look like they need improvement rather than to see, you know, the positives that may be coming out. And I know for a number of you, you're in very unusual places in terms of what jobs are perceived by your colleagues, and even you may have been perceived over time. And again, all those are elements to be and to be contextualized, and together you and Jeff can figure that stuff out, you know, in terms of what will be of value. The other thing that I think is really important for you to do is to please not wait till the next retreat to share this with your, and I don't quite know the context, Jeff, how to make that happen, but to share this with your mentor and really not let a lot of time elapse, because your mentors have also, I mean, that's, you know, I was going to say, mentors, Cheryl is new as a mentor, but experienced this before. We've all kind of been some of this and can help you with the contextualization and takeaways as well. For that, I am going to push on to new and exciting things, and wish you all of you who are celebrating the American Thanksgiving, a good Thanksgiving, and I look forward to being in touch with you all soon.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, and thanks for your kind words. Yes, you probably have eyes that are glazing over if you've been on this call, but there's not a, you know, will be a huge recall task. So you will see later on, you will see your actual form, and all you have to do is say, I think I kind of remember. All the instructions are in the form. Everything I said is there. So you really have to kind of remember or make a question mark if you don't remember, and then when we meet, we'll go through it. So let me just do a couple more things. You see the slide up here for those who are on. The next step, when I send you after this, you'll receive your forms, and you'll also receive this development learning guide, which is the way of walking you through. It's kind of the questions. Look at page 4. What surprised you? Look at page 6. But it's a useful thing. I ask you to do section 1, pages 15 to 16. If it's helpful, it's really just a summary. I have something called to follow up or not follow up. The text for that is that your boss is fill this out knowing that you know what that person wrote. So the question then becomes, you know what that person wrote, and that person knows that you know what they wrote. Do you then have a follow-up conversation with that person about anything that they wrote? And the answer is maybe. And we'll discuss that. And this paper, to follow up or not to follow up, has some considerations to think about. But the consideration is, do you think it'll be helpful for you? Set up time with your mentor. I'm going to email you the report. You know, you might want to, after we meet, email it to your mentor. You know, it's a PDF file. So if you're not comfortable emailing it, you can print it out and send it. When we meet, we start making sense of the data, and we start targeting areas of for growth and how to use the skills to leverage growth. Your report and our conversations are confidential. I do not keep copies of this, nor do I have made some notes to myself, but they're not notes about you. They're just look at page 4, look at page 6. And so now I have a chat question. If I only have one others, will their scores show? not 100% sure how they handle others, but you'll see in about 15 minutes. So, I'm muting you. So feel free to jump in with questions.
I need a glass of wine when we look at these.
Well, what Ray said, I've seen this happen a lot, and I warn Ray or Fran, whoever warns every year, and I warn every year. You're gonna there are 160 some odd items. You are to look at the 3 lowest ones, and you are going to head that bottle of wine. Yeah, and going to ignore 157 really wonderful pieces of information. That's what, if we do that, we wouldn't be in this business because, we strive for the highest. So, the need to go through it is to acknowledge where things are low, but also embrace, we're all taking compliments often. So, embrace that you have strengths in a lot of these areas, and also, look, and there's an average of 3.94, and it's your lowest score. Don't beat yourself up that, oh my God, I can't believe I got a red 3 point whatever it is. I'm just bringing this back really quickly, faster than I need to be, because I want to show you. Just to remind you what 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 mean, and that's back in the sample on page. Where is that? Sorry, I thought I had it here. But you could see that a 4 was something like the time, so or 3 was often.
Page 7.
7. Thank you.
It answers,
6, 7. Yes.
it answers the other question.
Right. So even if it's a 4, it's still to a great extent. It's not like even a 3. It's not like you're never doing what is expected by that item. You're still doing it to some extent.
Question?
Yeah.
To a functional orientation. Say what that?
To a functional orientation, you're looking at one of the items.
Yeah.
What page are you on so I could...
Yeah, it's okay.
No, what you're asking is an important point, which is that some of this is in kind of biz speak, and you wonder how it's going to play out in your job. And truth is that you kind of have to interpret just like you when you filled it out, or when your raters filled it out. Too narrow a functional orientation might mean that means that you are very focused on on your Dalit Amot, but not you don't have a bigger picture, and you're not really paying attention to what happens in other departments.
Okay.
Interpreted differently by different people.
I mean, there are items that are more jargony, and there are items that are less jargony. And this 360 is not perfect. It's very businessy oriented. But the truth is that the competencies that it measures are really important ones. So what we've been doing over the years is focusing on taking things that are really business jargony and just kind of putting them aside. But then things like does handle pressure well, or resist learning from mistakes. That that plays in every place of work. Now, that being said, it's the case that it's interpreted differently by everybody. Even if we think we know what say you don't handle pressure well, that doesn't mean the same as if Joe says you don't handle pressure well. We may have different criteria for what it means, what is well, what you're supposed to handle pressure, et cetera. It's always a matter of interpretation, but some things are a little bit more jargony and ambiguous than others.
How should we anticipate for the follow-up conversation with you?
I would say schedule an hour. It's unlikely. It'll probably be closer to 45 minutes, but let's schedule an hour. And then during that time, we'll also set up another time to meet briefly, maybe about a half hour, in a couple of weeks. In fact, maybe I should just put up another sign-in sheet, because what we'll do tomorrow is the first round here is primarily informational. What does it say? And you'll have a couple of weeks before we meet again to think about what does it mean in terms of goals for dslti, what we talk about during the second meeting, more goal-oriented.
Be WebEx also, will you send us an invitation?
Yes. So in a few minutes, you'll get the following. You will get the WebEx information for our meetings either tomorrow or the next day. You'll get the results. You'll get the development guide, and you get the to follow up or not to follow up.
And what development guide again?
The development guide, I didn't spend much time with it, but it's an interesting booklet. It's from CL, and it has a couple of things in it, but mostly it helps you analyze your 360. So it's got these kind of worksheets. A lot of it is these worksheets. So these two things from the perspective of each rater that you do well. What are the two things that each rater says that you don't do well? What does your boss say is highest? So it's like a worksheet walking through the results. So what I want you to do is two of the pages, pages 15 and 16. Where are we? 11. Here. So exercise E. To do exercise E, which is just a questions. What surprises you? How you describe your strengths? Which, those kind of things. Other questions? All right. So you're going to reach me, and again, we'll tell you that when you look at the thing, the good is that you just had the orientation a few minutes ago, so it'll still be fresh in your mind, but the truth is that you may or may not remember a lot of what we said. The guidelines are in there. If something, annotate the form any way you want. It's your form. That's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Annotate it, put question marks, follow up with me tomorrow, notes, all of that stuff. And I'll see you either tomorrow or okay. And we'll say good evening. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hang up.
Bye.